Good morning and welcome to Enterprise Friday on Enterprise Television. My name is Kende Bodirin.
And I am Henry Igubike.
All right, starting up with our newspaper, and right after that, we'll dive into our main conversation for the day. You can reach us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV 7. So joining us to share the matters at hand is Barrister Evans Ufeli. He's a barrister and a public affairs analyst. We also have Mr. Chude Achike, a journalist and a public affairs analyst. You are welcome.
Thank you so very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's a pleasure.
This very important conversation today. So let's get talking on our newspapers and to see what we have. Let's start with the Punch newspaper for today. Big story: live jail for Nnamdi Kanu. Southeast leaders rally for a political solution.
We also have heavy ransom. Bandits demand 3 billion naira to free Kwara churchgoers.
And also we have alleged genocide. U.S. Congress split over Nigeria's CPC designation.
We also have Lagos raises 244.8 billion naira bond to fund infrastructure.
Tinubu governors celebrate Jonathan at 68.
Okay, still the side strip, we have Obafemi Awolowo's grandson Shegun dies at 62.
So let's get talking. I'd love to start with you, Mr. Achike, on the issue of heavy ransom. Bandits demand 3 billion, not 300 million, not 3 billion for Kwara churchgoers to be freed. Don't you think this is laughable, at the same time shameful, that we have a democratic process in Nigeria with security architecture fully funded, and we have enemies of the state dictating what we should do? Speak to me, Achike.
Yes, I agree that it's I don't know whether the security infrastructure is fully funded, one, because of course you know that we've had issues. We've had wives of military officers at a time, at various times, protesting on the streets of the capital city, Abuja, because according to them, they are not saying that their husbands should not go and fight for the country. After all, that's what they are. They are security people, but that in doing that, they should be given, all the wherewithal, the protective gear that they need, and the funding, and, for them to be able to do that, so that they don't end up committing suicide through no fault of theirs. But it is not just, it's not exactly, it's not, of course, it's laughable in a perverse sense of way. It is also tragic that we find ourselves in this situation. And of course, the position of the government has been don't pay any money to bandits. And then the government that tells you do not pay any money to the bandits, ends up doing absolutely nothing to rescue citizens from the clutches of bandits, thereby leaving their loved ones in the hands of bloodthirsty people who could violate them either sexually or injure them or even kill them in the process. So you have no choice than to enter into private negotiation with the bandits, because your country is not able to keep you safe. And your country, even where you are kidnapped or you're abducted, your country is not able to rescue you, it's not able to do anything. So you have no choice than to bargain for the life of your loved ones. But the 3 billion, whether somewhere else I read there 100 million, 3 billion, either way, they're asking for ransom. And the government in those days, when this issue of kidnapping first started, they were saying that the government does not negotiate with bandits and terrorists and all that. But we have seen even in government houses, we are told, one of the government houses in the north where bandits, people were kidnapped, and then it was at the government house that the money for the payment was even provided for the bandits. It is more than shameful, it's a tragedy. We see instances where bandits even organize press conferences in parts of the north. And then you have security people, you have soldiers, you have NSCDC, you have DSS, all of them being there. And you see these gun-toting terrorists having a press conference. So when you look at all of these things, you're asking yourself exactly what is happening. Nnamdi Kanu, yes, it's a decision has been taken on him, but it does not solve the problem of insecurity. So They look, but the reality is that the Nigerian state has lost the ability. It's not capable of defending itself, nor defending the citizens of this country. And this thing that's going on is spreading. You have seen where it has. You can see that the epicenter is not so much in the northeast or the northwest. It's moving down southwest. It has. We saw what has happened in Kwara State. The other day, the governor of Nasarawa was saying that Lokaru, or is it Lokau or Lakau, one of those, terrorist organizations, is becoming active in that state, and that they needed to do something about it. It has moved to Kwara State. From Kwara State, of course, it's Ekiti, because Ekiti borders both Kwara and Kogi. Yeah. So even the southwest, that had been relatively safe all this while, is no longer exactly safe. So the government seems clearly to have lost the ability. And you can see the crisis now, it has become an international issue. Just yesterday or early this morning, the United Nations weighed in on it, and they did a special session on insecurity in the south, in the ECOWAS, some of these ECOWAS the ECOWAS sub-region, because they are saying that it is becoming the epicenter of violence and terrorist activities in the world. So you can imagine that. It's really a tragedy.
Okay, let me just throw this question to Barrister Evans. So what does this ransom demand, right, say about the worsening state of insecurity in Nigeria?
Well, it means the security architecture has collapsed. That is what it means. There is no safety anywhere in Nigeria as we speak. And it gives us worry because when this Boko Haram started like a child's play. And we keep saying it. Al-Modu Sharif, the former governor of Borno State, who started with Boko Haram, okay, because we're talking about accountability. We keep talking about how to solve the problem. We're not talking about holding those who started it accountable, who are still walking freely on the streets. One of the wings of this insecurity was started by Al-Modu Sharif. Okay, that's the one that now metamorphosed into Boko Haram. One other wing of this was started in 2014-2015 by El-Rufai, the late Buhari, former president of Nigeria, and their cohorts, who went to bring this bandit into the country from Mali, from Chad, from Niger, and the rest of that. Empowered them with assaulted rifles, with finance and national income, taxpayers' money, okay, to fight Jonathan if Jonathan failed to relinquish power. For an election that have not been conducted, election was contested. Surprisingly, Jonathan relinquished power to Buhari, even called Buhari before INEC announced results. You remember then when during Buhari's speech, he said he was surprised that Jonathan had to yield power. And immediately they took over power. They came out hurriedly to tell us that the bandits, the people that are killing people, the bandits all over the country are not from Nigeria. They came out to tell us. They told us the truth that they are not from Nigeria. And truly they are not from Nigeria. But what they did not tell us, is that they are the ones who went to bring them. Now, El-Rufai came out and said he has paid them 100 million to stop attacking. And the rest of that. El-Rufai is working freely in Nigeria today. Al-Modu Sharif is working freely. There was a time he was arrested in Cameroon. And the rest of that. They are working freely. We have not held them accountable. And then we are saying we're trying to solve. Which problem are you solving? Which problem are you solving? The people who brought this thing are working freely. And in the same manner, these same persons, including the current president, Tinubu, and his courts, all went to America during Obama's time to report Jonathan and Nigeria that insurgency has taken over the country and that the country is not able to move forward and that Jonathan is incompetent and the rest of that. The same case they took to the U.S., that is what the U.S. just revisited a month ago. The U.S. only revisited that issue. And the U.S. is now saying that this is the same issue you brought to us. Right now, the insecurity you talk about then has quadrupled. What we have now is a total case of chaos. And now they are saying, it's not Christian genocide, it's not that genocide, it's not this, it's not a genocide. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's Muslim genocide or Christian genocide. What is going on is that people are being killed on a daily basis. Okay? And nothing seems to be, the government is doing nothing about it. Okay, so this insecurity issue has worsened. In this one, they're asking for 100 million per head. That's what cumulated to 30 billion, 300 billion, whatever it is.
3 billion.
They're asking for 100 billion per head. Look at the people who were kidnapped. Do they look like people who can afford that money? Can that state even afford that money? Okay? So when you allow these kind of things to grow, when it becomes a Frankenstein, and you allow those who brought him in to work freely, and then you now claim that you are trying to solve the problem. Okay? Go to the north, you see how they are negotiating with bandits. And a court is sitting over a citizen on the allegations of making expressions that became a terrorist act. Okay, so we are not serious at all. We are not serious. This is 3 a.m. in Canada now as I speak to you. I can open my window. You will see there's no day, there's no night in Canada, in Ontario, Toronto, where I am now. Okay? There's no day, there's no night. The tram is working, train is working. Everybody, you go outside and it look like afternoon. Everybody's on doing one thing or the other. Is that not a country? So how do we lose it so badly like this, that we are now a wreck of ourselves? We have collapsed under our own contradictions. This is very painful, to say the least. I pray for that country. I pray for that country. Nigerians in diaspora cannot sleep. Nigerians here in diaspora cannot sleep. Nobody is sleeping here. Nobody is sleeping, because if you go to bed in the next 1 minute, before you wake up, they will tell you that they have killed 300 in one place.
I can imagine.
It's actually very sad, that we are living at a time like this in 2025, when I believe there's what we call geo mapping, right? Where you can specifically, take charge of your territory.
Exactly,
but Nigeria, we don't know how to take care of our territory, to know where these insurgents are and know how to nip them in the bud. But let's take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper for today. We have the big story. Kanu gets life imprisonment after 10-year trial.
Okay, we also have health workers strike increases, patronage of private hospitals.
And equally, violence in Nigeria affects Christians and Muslims, and that's coming from the Pope.
We also have schoolgirls abduction. President asks defense minister to relocate to Kebbi State.
All right, actually, let's take a look at this story. Jonathan's concession in 2015 strengthened Nigeria's democracy, and that's coming from our current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Don't you think this statement is hypocritical, knowing what transpired in February 25th, 2023? There is still lots of issues, pertaining his legitimacy as the president of the country, but stating that the concession of Goodluck Jonathan strengthened the democracy. Speak to me.
Well, politicians are very good at double speak. They have mastered the act of speaking from both sides of the mouth. So it's their trait. There's nothing new about that. If you talk about hypocrisy, APC as a government, as a party, is an embodiment of hypocrisy, because there is virtually nothing that they accuse the PDP and Jonathan of doing that they have not done perhaps many times over. It's easy because they have benefited from the decision that Jonathan made, that the blood of a Nigerian, is not worth any presidential ambition, any political ambition. That is a statement that people will remember for a very, very long time. And he did not just say it, he demonstrated it, because he now went ahead and gave up power. Perhaps he had already known that the APC had imported mercenaries into the country to make Nigeria ungovernable. and to create, an atmosphere of chaos and anarchy. But he just left the seat to the chagrin of his top, members of the PDP, because he showed truly that he's a man of peace. And so, but what has happened to the democracy? Because the president is a beneficiary of the struggle against a military dictatorship. So what are they doing? What have they done exactly with the democracy? So it's one thing to say, yes, that Jonathan, promoted democracy by the sacrifice that he made. But those who have inherited it, what have they done with it? We saw what the 8 years of the Buhari administration was. We saw a spike in the level of violence in this country. In fact, a lot of people might not know that before Buhari came to power, we were contending with Boko Haram, essentially. And then, but as at the time, once he came in, he was able to push the Southeast, directly or indirectly, to the path that the Southeast is now, today. It was under the Buhari administration that, because a lot of people forget that either MASOB or IPOB was seen as a relatively peaceful movement. In fact, you had some international commentators also making that assertion that it was a peaceful movement. They don't carry guns, they don't carry arms, they don't carry sticks, they just agitate. But even in the process of agitation, evidence abound as to the number of people that were killed, even while they're having meetings in a classroom and all that. So some of these things led to, the more radicalization of the movement, and then you now began to see pockets of violence from the Southeast. Of course, that also, precludes and led participation of other actors, non-state actors, being supported by the state. Asari Dokubo was able to say something to that effect, that Buhari had mobilized him and his people to keep the Southeast safe and parts of the North. And so for a non-security outfit, official security outfit like Asari Dokubo's group, to be giving money to participate somehow in the security element of the Southeast, that can only give you an idea of the kind of security they are supposed to be providing in the Southeast. So, you talk of the enemy within. And so it's unfortunate. Now they have gone ahead to sentencing Nnamdi Kanu to life imprisonment. In fact, the judge was saying that it's just that they had given consideration to the unpopularity of the death sentence. Otherwise, the implication is that they would have applied the death penalty on Nnamdi Kanu. It's, of course, as it is now, that matter, the Nnamdi Kanu matter, long stopped being a legal issue or a judicial issue and became a political issue. And that it has to be handled at that level. And then people are also watching to see. People carry guns. People have carried guns. This is Asari Dokubo before the president, when he came into power. Guns, they were carrying guns in broad daylight. And then there was nothing wrong with that. And so people are seeing a two-tier justice system in this country, where there's a rule for one side and another rule for the other side. The barrister, Ufeli, has talked about, the cozy relationship between some governors in the north and some of these rebel groups and all that. You ask yourself, so what is the basis of even the verdict of Nnamdi Kanu when you also allow more brazen, commission of terror in parts of the country, and those ones get away with it? So it's sad. It's unfortunate.
Very so sad.
Very sad. Okay. So let me just quickly ask Barrister this question too. So can we? I want us to reflect on Jonathan's president, that's past president Jonathan's governance. So can we say that why is the 2015 concession still referred today? And although I have two questions here, and what lessons can current politicians learn from 2015?
Well, Jonathan did a very wonderful job at that time, even though it was not appreciated. A lot of people interpreted it as a weakness, because a friend of mine told me that if he were the one, what he would have done was when Urubebe started shouting at Jega. That was when, if he were the president, he would have set in then and cancelled that election. But Jonathan had a reason to cancel the election because of what transpired. He had a reason to do something extraordinary, but he didn't do that. He said that the blood of any Nigeria does not worth his political career or something like that. Okay, he won't stay back and allow his ambition as a politician to cause the death of Nigerians, and that was remarkable. He lost the election gallantly and pulled out. Incumbency pulling out in that manner. It has never happened in Nigeria up until that time. Okay, and that was supposed to be a learning curve for the politicians. But the Nigerian politician never learns anything. What the Nigerian politician is interested is power, not lessons. Okay, how to get power at all costs, and to make sure that if they are not able to get it, they scatter everything. So that is the likes of Erufai, the kind of product we now have today, the likes of Wike, and so many other of them who have that proclivity to want to destroy things. At every point, things don't go their way. You understand? Today we have Erufai shouting to the high heavens, condemning this government because things didn't go his way. He forgets that, or he forgot that he was part of those who built the blocks for the destruction of this country, and to what is happening now. Okay, by joining forces with his cohort to go bring bandits into the country. And why is it that anytime we discuss this issue, we don't go there? We don't go there. Everybody is scared to go there. That is where the problem lies. Okay, our politicians are not learning anything at all. Okay, imagine if Buhari had built on the electoral reform of Jonathan, because Jonathan, instituted an electoral reform that eventually took him out. The reform he created, was a reform that took him out. Okay, so it should be about Nigeria. If Buhari had built on it in 2019, Buhari was a beneficiary of the reform of Jonathan in 2019, lowered the bar. Then in 2023, Tinubu came in and destroyed the bar. It's a technical glitch, okay, and destroyed everything. So we have to build. If you're talking about electoral reform now, we have to start from scratch because that election was a sham. That election was a sham. Apart from the 1993 Buhari Abiola election, the one that Abiola won, which is today is referred to as the freest and fairest. The next election that came close to it was the 2015 election. Okay, which was a byproduct of reform that Jonathan put in place. But today, what we don't even have. I mean, this coming election. Look at Anambra. Did you see what happened in Anambra? Solodo was buying vote from 20,000 naira. When he bought vote to a point that now discovered that this thing is over, he started paying 10,000 naira. And then there was a huge number of local government left. They started giving 1,000 naira and gala. 1,000 naira gala and cook. That was the benchmark. That was the suffrage. If you get 1,000 naira, one gala and one cook, you are good to go. That's what happened. So are we building that electoral? See, forget about Yamopito. Yamopito, as far as I'm concerned, does not even know what is going on. He was my lecturer at the University of Jos, taught me the law of evidence. But Nigerian politics is deeper than the law of evidence. It's deeper than anything you can think of. Okay, so he was just there as a watchman. Why the election Anambra was not an election, was buying and selling. And that's what took place there. Okay? So you see that our politicians have not learned anything. How are they going to learn? Are they interested in the country? No. They're not interested in the country. What they're interested in is power and the money that comes with it. And that's why the United States government is saying, we're going to clamp down on them. We're going to freeze their assets, their accounts, and the rest of that, and deal with them one after the other. And that's exactly what they should do. You know, they said they are going to come in. Now, it looks like the American government is reneging on that because they know that's going to cost them a lot. Apart from what it's going to cost us internally, it's going to cost the U.S. a lot too. So I don't know where Nigeria is heading to, truly. I don't know, really.
I hope we know someday. Seriously, because...
All right, it's a big, complex issue. We truly do hope that we.
Let me just add this.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. You know the danger. I had argued years ago, in one of the national media. It was a TV house, but I mean about 12 years ago. Then Boko Haram was still in the budding stage. They were already causing crisis, and anarchy in the country. And I remember saying to them that this is the time that we need to go all out, use every resource or all resources at our disposal to defeat that movement, that terrorist organization once and for all. That we will be making a fatal mistake if we allow it to linger and then just, try to deal with it piecemeal. That we get to a level where we'll no longer be able to control it. And this is exactly what has happened. But beyond that, we must also remember what happened in Zaire, Congo, Kinshasa, with Laurent Kabila. When that insurgency against and the rebellion against Mobutu Seseko's government sprang up, of course, with the support from a few countries here and there, they began to grow. And Laurent Kabila took it, Seseko, the president, then maybe thought it was not a very big thing. He would go, of course, he was already free by then. They won't leave power, these African dictators. He will go abroad for a treatment and then come back. And the insurgency was still building up. By the time he tried to use all of the military muscle of Congo-Kinshasa to stem the tide, it was impossible. It had built momentum. The movement against him had built momentum, and that was what swept him out of power and plunged, DRC into a war, serious conflict for some time. So this is what one is afraid of. Because if you remember how these people started, how many were they? Let's even look at Boko Haram before they were joined by Lakurawan, before they were joined by ISIS and all that, and then the headsmen. Maybe a few people, in Borno. Then it grew, metamorphosed, had more people, and then before you know it, it had gone to the next state, and from there it had gone to the neighboring states. It was already growing, and morphing, or it was already growing until they began to take over local government, areas. Now, so what do we have now at this particular point in time? They have spread from the northeast to the north central to the northwest, and they are moving southwards. They are now in Kwara, operating almost fully in Kwara. There was the attack in Owo some time ago, which we all remember. And then in the southeast, of course, is a different kettle of fish there. So they are growing. They are growing in two ways. They are growing in terms of resources. Either they are getting these resources through kidnapping, or they are getting it through their financial backers, both in Nigeria and out of this country. Remember the list from Dubai. Nothing has been done. People are still talking about it. So they have international backers. They have local backers. Then they have the profits that they make or the money they make from kidnapping. So they have grown in terms of their resources. But they are also growing in physical strength in terms of recruitment, because many more people have joined them. And while they are growing in resources and in recruitment, how have our security agencies grown in terms of even the numbers? How many soldiers have we been able to recruit? It was just a few days ago that the Minister of the chief of army staff was saying that they are going to recruit 24,000 soldiers. Now, how are you going to recruit them? And what is the, possibility that they are not going to end up recruiting terrorist sympathizers in the process itself? So these are some of the issues. So they are growing in strength, and that's why they can go beyond their borders, their usual areas of operation, down all the way to the southwest. So we hope that, what happened in Zaire, that they won't grow to the extent that they feel that they have the numbers and they have the resources to make a play on the Nigerian state and take over one or two capital cities in the country. But these things, I can tell you, they are not impossible to achieve from what we have been seeing. From a small, locality in Borno, they have grown to many parts of the country. That tells you that there is a problem and that we are not able to even tackle this issue because the Nigerian state is weak and the institutions of the state, are also weak.
It's a whole complex, and the Minister for Foreign Affairs, even if the issue is glaring, seems to water it down, especially with the interview he had with Piers Morgan. And I do not know how we can solve this, but of course it's a developing story. And right here on Enterprise Television, we promise to unfold them as they happen. We'll be right back, but when we return on our main conversation, court sentences IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu to life imprisonment after decade-long terrorism trial. In the beat is still Enterprise Friday. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Thank you so very much for being back, and this is Enterprise Friday, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's get talking on our main conversation for today, where we have it that Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court has sentenced, finally, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, to life imprisonment after a decade-long trial. The judgment delivered on Thursday followed his controversial arrest in Kenya 4 years ago and subsequent rendition to Nigeria, where he faced 7 terrorism-related charges.
Very true. The court proceeding in Kanu's absence after he insisted the ruling would not be delivered, a stance that led to his removal from the courtroom for allegedly unruly behavior. In the verdict, Justice Omotosho held that Kanu's various broadcasts on Radio Biafra amounted to acts of terrorism, noting that his messages were anchored on violence and posed a threat to national security.
And also the judge added that the sit-at-home order issued by Kanu in the southeast of Nigeria constituted an infringement on citizens' freedom of movement and demonstrated a lack of constitutional authority to issue such directives. From evidence tendered, the court found that Kanu used his broadcast to incite attacks on the police and military personnel, actions the court said amounted to preparatory act of terrorism.
So Justice Omotosho further stated that Kanu showed no remorse throughout the trial, describing him as arrogant and full of himself, despite the gravity of his actions and their impact on the southeast. Having found him guilty on all 7 counts, the judge opted for a life sentence rather than the death penalty, acknowledging that capital punishment is increasingly discouraged internationally. He therefore ordered that Kanu be imprisoned for life on counts 1, 4, 5, and 6 in the interest of justice.
Well, let's get talking. We still have with us Barrister Evans Ufeli, who joins us from Toronto in Canada, and Achike Chude, who joins us from Lagos State in Nigeria. So let's get talking, gentlemen. I'd love to start with you, Barrister Evans Ufeli. This is your catchment area. Help us fleshing out what actually happened. This is actually not coming a bit outside of the curve. Legal luminaries like you and more have described and expected this. Remember, Kanu cited the case had no prima facie. But of course, we all know that his lack of defense will lead to what we have seen. Speak to us.
Yeah, very well. This case was going very well when Kanu Agabi was defense counsel against defense. I was going well when the prosecution opened a case, made us allegation. Made allegation against you can against one and or and was able to disprove and made their case not credible. Okay. Then when they finished his case, the defendant filed a no-case submission. A no-case submission that you are that the prima facie case has not been established against you, that you have no case to answer. The court grounds the fact that there's no case to answer. The court now dismissed the no-case submission and said that a prima facie case has been established against Nnamdi Kanu must enter his defense. Okay, all of a sudden, we're expecting that to happen, where all of a sudden they said all the lawyers have been asked to withdraw from the case, and then Nnamdi Kanu is going to defend himself. That was okay. It's allowed by law to defend yourself because you can, even though the law is that you have to stop by the way, because you can't really pull it through. Now, what the issues, he said that the charge against him was wrong. There's no charge against him, all the rest of that. So there was no defense. The court gave him ample opportunity to be able to file his defense. At the end of the day, nothing was filed. Even the written address was not. The court foreclosed him, which is the principle of law. And in such kind of case where allegations like that have been raised, okay, facts that are not disproved or contested are deemed admitted under the law. That's the law. Okay. And the justice did not disprove those facts, that there's nothing coming from him to debunk those allegations. It clearly was a 1-0 for him, I mean, at that point. So the court went ahead and convicted him yesterday. The penalty for that offense, so terrorism, is actually a death penalty. Well, because of the fact that the international community frowned against mitigated to life in prison. Okay? Well, you see, as much as, because when Kanu Agabi did this, when Kanu Agabi was cross-examining the prosecution witness, you notice that all they're saying, they don't have any direct evidence against Nnamdi Kanu. They were just saying this in terms of unequivocal evidence. And so actually, until came in, okay, and I'll see where this thing has led to. Because in appeal, you cannot witness, you cannot going to go on trial. It's a jury court level. The court's going to look for what's done at the court of instance, so the same what comes, and that can make pronouncement. So I had thought that a defense would have been filed in this matter to make it stiffer for the court to take such decision. Okay, but it has gone this way. However, I do not absolutely agree with that. I mean, I'm not you could have just included that act of terrorism just like that. When you balance it, what is happening in society, those who are carrying rifles, killing people, raping people, bringing down people. You haven't second one. No, you don't say that they catch 3 thieves. You say because they catch the other one, they should not convict the one they catch. No. We shouldn't play double standard. The sponsor of Boko Haram insurgency, there is a list in this country. There is a website of the sanction mountain commission. And it's there. 2003, none of them have been prosecuted. I went to court at advice to court, asking for them to compel the Attorney General of the Federation and National Security Advisor, the federal government, to prosecute those people. Nothing was done till now. They have not filed their defense till now. Okay, in that matter. Then someone whom you claim made a broadcast. I do not support Nnamdi Kanu because through which you can as much as you support, it support a situation where the issue if the government is prosecuted, they should prosecute people around persons who are as also Boko Haram, both the they would have by the death penalty.
All right,
no,
can you hear me, Barrister? We're actually finding it difficult.
I can hear you.
Yeah, your line is breaking.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes, in 2017, from all the organizations that are terrorizing the country, they sing out IPOB and proscribe this. Okay?
Yeah.
I will speak. IPOB is the only organization in Nigeria that is proscribed. Okay? And all that. So, the white government wanted to Kanu jets. The U.S. not release those jets. The U.S. told them to go back and name those people that are bandit terrorists before they can take jets away. You understand? Meanwhile, in 2015, IPOB have been proscribed as a terrorist organization.
Yeah.
So what kind of under that way?
All right. So let's a bit go to Achike at this point. Achike, let's take a look at this issue case by case. I know at the first phase of our conversation, you said this was more of a political prosecution. I love us that you make your point on what you think that is, but let's take a look at what Nnamdi Kanu had what he had done and what the effect is with the southeast of Nigeria. Is it fair to say, to a large extent, some of those crimes he allegedly committed has led to what we see today in the southeast of Nigeria when it comes to insecurity?
No, it's again, I'm not holding brief for Nnamdi Kanu. I disagree with a lot of the things, his postulations, and then the way he carries these things out. I disagree most vehemently with him. But we must also go back to history, and the history is not too far, to when IPOB was described as a peaceful organization, even by members of the international community. So how did that international organization, that peaceful organization become radical and become violent? What happened? You know, a lot of people do not know that there are so many extrajudicial killings of people from the southeast while the crisis was raging. It got to that level where perhaps, I don't know, whether people now decided they needed to defend themselves and all that. You know, and Kanu obviously is uncouth. His language is very vitriolic and very, very violent, and it's not something that would endear people to him easily. Of course, if you look at the bottom line, the root cause of the agitation, you see that there are some truths there. There were some truths in the Niger Delta agitation at the time, the degradation of the Niger Delta and the mass suffering that the people were going through, and yet that region continued to be the mainstay of the nation's economy. There was some truth there. There's also some truth in virtually every part of this country, that injustice, the state is perpetrating injustice against its people, against its citizens. And as a result of that, the tendency for one or two people to just, emerge from the shadows and claim to be champions of the people because they are speaking the language of the people is always there. So the state, Nigerian state, either directly or indirectly, enabled what is happening in the Southeast today. There are no two ways about that. You can quarrel with Nnamdi Kanu, quarrel with his methods, and quarrel with the way he's going about some of these things. But the reality is that some of the crises even you're talking about in the Southeast, there's a very strong possibility that he doesn't have a hand in a lot of them. And that his own IPOB, his own faction of IPOB, is not the one killing the people of the Southeast. He's made that point in the past several times. And in fairness to him, he had also said at the time that it would just take him 20 minutes to bring about peace in the Southeast. But I don't think so. That Southeast that he was in at the time is no longer the same Southeast. All manners of criminal elements have emerged. So you can say, yes, that the crisis we are facing in the Southeast is as a result of the agitation by Nnamdi Kanu, because these agitations also lead to all manners of other, or fallout of, you have other rogue elements even from within that organization also coming out to do, all manners of things in the name of agitation. You look at the Irish Republican Army at the time, out of the shadows of the Irish Republican Army emerged the real Republican Army. So these things happen. The longer a violent struggle, it goes on, the tendency that you have splinter groups who will now, detach themselves from the main, group with their fixated ideology, and then begin all manners of other things that might not be in line. That might not be in line with history, movement. And I think that somewhere along the line, that's what is happening. When Asari Dokubo talked about Buhari giving him money, giving them resources to bring about peace in the Southeast and in the Southwest, was there no national army? Did we not have a national security infrastructure? So that would tell you that perhaps what Asari Dokubo was doing in the Southeast was not about bringing peace in that region, but that certain people were doing certain things and then giving the tag of an inglorious tag or infamy to IPOB. But that is not to say that elements of IPOB are not involved in the violence in the Southeast. I cannot say that because I don't know for sure.
Okay, so could Kanu appeal this life sentence, and what are the legal pathways? Over to you, Barrister Evans.
No, it will be appealed. It will be appealed. There's no doubt about it. I'm not going to allow that. And but the reality is that the die was cast immediately. I saw a live broadcast of that program on multiple television channels. I just smiled and I said, look, the judgment at the end of this trial is not one that a lot of people will be happy about, and so they needed to prepare Nigerians, and that's why they did it.
Okay.
Yeah, so Barrister, speak to us on the appeal. What do you think is the legal interpretation of it? Do we see a light at the end of the tunnel? But President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, while speaking to judges, said that justice must not be bought or must not be sold. Yeah. So do you think that we see a light at the end of the tunnel with the appeal?
Well, you see options of appeal. Options of appeal, the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, those are options of appeal left. But no, in the nature of appeal, it's canvassed in the court of first instance. It's what the court will look at. Vis-a-vis, that's what the appeal court will look at, vis-a-vis the grounds of appeal of the appellant. Okay? And in the case where you did not enter defense at all, okay? A lot of pressure will be on the counsel, the appellate counsel, because they will have to do more. And they have to work because the foundation of the case is standing on is standing without a defense. Okay, so the ground of appeal will determine issues and all that, but we should know that on appeal you don't call witnesses. Okay. You don't call witnesses. You're only going to rely on what have been done before. And it's a jury court where they're going to have, the justices look at the matter and write their independent judgment in the case. Okay? So that is what it is. I agree that this case has long become a political one because the moment the Court of Appeal asked that Nnamdi Kanu be released, and the federal government went on appeal, and then the matter started de novo. From 2015, this matter has been on, the army went to his house, destroyed things and all that. So the whole thing had dragged unnecessarily, okay? But these options of appeal are going to be very important. We should remember that Nnamdi Kanu, as we speak, once he filed a stay of execution, and there is a file, be treated as a non-citizen. It should be like any other citizen. The way we behave in Nigeria. That the announcement might start to misbehave. You have all the rights to anything for him because you see how who knows the court infringed autonomy that have been reached far. So this is we should have it. These options of appeal must be exhausted before you can truly say that it is when you no longer have option of appeal that I can say you have come to the end of the case. Right now, we're back to the case.
All right, that's awesome. Is Achike still here with us? All right, so we learned Achike has just left us right now. But Barrister, let's talk some more on some of the things going on, especially with this case. I'd love us to, if possible, compare what we see today with that of Henry Oka, the leader of the movement for the emancipation of the Niger Delta, who is currently serving years of jail time in South Africa. Is there any sort of maybe sameness? And what's your take, actually?
Well, the similarities that of them are free writers. The fact of the case are quite similar because it has to do with agitation. Even though one is a successionist agitation, while the other is for economic integration of people, Niger Delta. They are not in approaching terms of if you look at them, okay, not much difference there, but the facts are different because you can have two cases that will have a decision. Okay, so the other one had this conviction by themselves. The appeal options open to the party, the appellant. Virtually almost the same. The struggle with one situation. So that's there.
All right.
Okay. So what's how might Kanu's sentences, affect the security situation in the southeast? How might
do you think there will be a rampage and all?
A protest.
Yeah, the stand part of good adapting and also messages and there. as we found on that the leaders that John will in a different way and the rest of that. Now, right now, tempers are high, and I believe that peace will be maintained because they go out and start to whatever it is to carry out their own. It leads to the destruction or the killing of the region. So this is not a time to do that. People are really in sober as a result of the judgment. I'm happy about it, the way it went and the rest of that, because the defense counsel of not the responsibility and rest of that. So who is in sober flesh and that. So our president family that in due time there could be a different case in future, but we think we understand that you see the law practice kind of a job. Nobody build law, but you have to go to it. Those who have the qualification, the training to be allowed to handle it. No matter whether the case is frivolous, whether the case is not the case, and all that. Those who are knowledgeable, who have the training, should be the one, and that is what I think. So they will not got things. So when things are going bad, you know where they are coming from. You know that they're coming from external angle. Not that things are going bad and then it's coming from the internal angle to the whole thing. So that's my take on it.
All right, thank you so very much, Barrister. And equally, a big thank you to Achike Chude. That's just about the time we have. Yes, that's just about the time we have. This is a developing story.